Welcome everybody to the default scene. Today we're going to be going over tracking titles in Blender. So if you see here, I just finished this little test shot of tracking a title into this drone shot. And I'm going to go pretty quick over this. You can see that the building over here, it actually includes our title and things like that. We're going to go over how to do all of this, but I'm going to go quick. And so if you have any questions or you didn't catch something, feel free to stop the video and rewind. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to go ahead and come over here to new and VFX, and I'm going to save that. Now let's open up our shot. All right, so I'm in my motion tracking editor. I have my shot open. I'm just going to click set scene frames, and I'm going to make sure that my FPS is set correctly here in my scene, 24 frames per second, and then my resolution is right. And then coming down here to color management, I'm going to change from the view transform from filmic to standard. You can see that changes how our image looks. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to do is come down here and turn on motion blur, and in the film drop down menu, turn on transparent. And last but not least, I'm just going to hit the home key down here in our timeline so that I can see all of our frames for the shot. And I'm going to choose, I'm going to end my shot here and come back to about here and click start frame. Okay, so we're about a little more than 200 frames. It's about 10 seconds. Sounds pretty good. Now all I need to do is track something. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to track this little point right here. So I just control left mouse button click in order to add a tracker. And then I can either come down here to track and track forward or backward depending on where I am in my scene. Or I can use this. So I'm just going to click track forward here. And you can see that Blender is tracking. And so let me go ahead and just scrub through and make sure that my track was fairly good. Okay, we're good to go. So before we jump into adding text, I'm just going to go ahead and do a real quick roto. So I'm going to come here to the tracking menu and click mask. And I'll just give myself a little more screen space here. And then I'm going to control left mouse button click, and I'm going to I'm going to place a couple of points here. And then in order to close these off, I'll hit Alt-C. And then I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and turn on auto keying. And then I'm going to push I in order to add a frame. Next, I'm going to go to the end here, and I'm just going to move this. Okay, select everything, hit I. So now you can see it gets a little bit off. And then I'm actually just going to add one more mask layer here, turn off the visibility of this mask. And I'm just going to, let's see here, come here, and I'll just mask this off. Now that I've tracked those two layers, the only other thing I'm going to do real quickly, just to save myself some heartache later on, is I'm going to look at this layer and figure out where it stops here. So it stops right there. So I'm going to just key the opacity in order to turn it off. Same thing with this. When does it stop occluding the road? That would be maybe right there. So now that we have those masks set up, we're all pretty much ready to go. I'm just going to create a layout. Oh, sorry. First, I'm going to select our track and hit T on my keyboard and make sure I'm in the tracking workspace. And then I'm just going to come here to solve and geometry and link empty to track. There you go. You can see I have a tracker now with my camera. So next, we just need to line up our camera, line up our text, and we're pretty much done. So let me just pull up this movie clip, and I'm gonna just add in our text. we'll just have the text say something simple like the default scene. Okay, and now if you want to, you can do a bunch of stuff, but all I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to add in a new material and change the principled BDSF to emission. So now I'm just going to grab my camera, and I'm going to move my camera, not my text. And so I'll hit R and Z. Oops, let me change this to 3D cursor. I'll hit R and Z and turn this around, and then R and Y and R and X. So now that I have gone ahead and lined everything up, I can just play through and you see nothing happens. And that's because we just need to grab our text, shift select our empty, and hit Control P and just parent object. Now our text is tracked to our scene. So finally, let's jump over into the compositing workspace, and I'm going to turn off backdrop, and I'm going to turn on nodes, and then I'm also going to just pull up an image viewer and turn on the viewer node, and then Control Shift click to turn on to apply the viewer node into my node graph. And then last but not least, I'll add in a little reroute node right here. This just makes life simpler for me. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to add in a movie clip node, and then 2 alpha over nodes, 1, 2, and 1 mask node. Okay, and then I'll just make sure to select my mask from the drop-down menu. And while we're at it, let's add in 1 blur node as well. So how does this all work? Well, first, select our movie clip. Next, we're going to put our movie clip into the top socket of the first alpha over and our render into the bottom socket. Then we're going to take that first alpha over output and put it into the top socket of the second alpha over, and our movie clip into the bottom socket of the alpha over, and then this alpha over out socket goes into our composite and viewer nodes. And then last but not least, we're going to take our mask and plug it into the image of the blur node, and then take the output of that and plug it into the factor of our second alpha over. And I'm just going to go ahead and give this like a true pixel blur. This is just to soften the edges around our mask. So let me go ahead and go to the last frame, and since we're in Eevee, we can just render real quickly. Okay, that seems about right. Let's go to our first frame and render real quickly. And you can see that our mask has allowed us to use this building. And this just adds a little extra pizzazz to when you add text to when you track text to your scenes. So let's go ahead and render this out. I'm gonna come down here to the output. Let's call this something like tracking titles final.mp4. And then we'll change the file format to FFmpeg video, and the container to mpeg4, and everything else will be the same. If you want higher quality, change this to high quality. I don't really need it. Save real quick, and then just go to File and Render Animation. Okay, our render is finished, so let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go to Render and View Animation, and we can see the animation here. And I think it looks pretty good. It's for 5 minutes worth of work. It's a pretty good result. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope that your day goes well, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.